As some of you have noticed and commented on, I've had a substantial amount of channel growth over the last 2 weeks now, thanks in large part to Wizards of the Coast's, OGL leaks, which is ironic considering a long-standing theme of both the products I put out and what I talk about on this channel is that I kind of don't like the open games license. Never have. I think it's a little problematic for different reasons that I find online role playing to also have been a little problematic over time. Uh, but the details of some of my thinking I haven't gotten too far into because unfortunately I know I have quite a few writers in my audience, and some of you might well take what I have to say personally. It's not personal, as I've titled this video. This is an act of tough love. So, hi, I'm King Waspinator. Welcome back to Total Party Skills. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. Or, at least keep your hand near the button. See if you can at least get through the video, intact without having to turn away in shock and disgust at what I have to say. But, the OSR is kind of hacky. And the open games license is kind of why the entire hobby has gained such a sick fixation with Dungeons and Dragons in particular. For certain, the role-playing game hobby is a product of the creation of Dungeons and Dragons. It was the first. It's the most iconic. It set the mold that everything else has been trying to replicate or base their own work off of or extrapolate from, so on and so on. However, once upon a time, it was just a game that was nested within the greater hobby that is role-playing games. And the fact that we've been chased off of calling ourselves gamers because of video game people, and that we can't even call it the role-playing game hobby anymore. It's got to be the tabletop role-playing game hobby because of fucking video gamers. And now here we are about to watch D&D try to turn itself into a video game. Like, how much ground are we just gonna, let recede out from under us year after year after year after year? Obviously, the OGL has been a great benefit to a lot of people, and if there's a market for something, you can't blame people for wanting to put a product out there for people to buy. However, because it's encouraged so many people to write things that are focused as being D&D compatible, it causes the bulk of the gaming industry as it is nowadays, at least, especially since much of it is amateur, just as much as myself, as opposed to like, big time real quote unquote publishers. Everything is directed in the direction of D&D, and so the health of D&D has an effect on the health of the role-playing game community, and to a point where now people are just referring to the hobby itself as Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons has become the Band-Aid of role-playing games adhesive strips. And it doesn't have to be that way, and it might very well end because of all this. They're proposing such an amount of radical changes in such a short period of time that it's improbable that it will transition smoothly into a new audience from this point out. And it has done irreparable damage to its existing community. That really, everyone in the hobby is still kind of reeling from this. The emotional processing hasn't begun. There's going to be quite a few people who will peel back and fall back into the D&D Beyond fold as the months progress from this point out, as people try to avoid ego death because they've hinged so much of their online identity around Dungeons and Dragons, or have written so many Dungeons and Dragons products, or they're just going to, just let the slow progression and pressure of time and the need for clicks and engagement and things to talk about still drag them along and still be paying attention and inadvertently promoting stuff for Wizards of the Coast as things move forward. These things are very likely, but at the same time, though, the damage is pretty severe. And the community does seem to have pretty much kind of solidified into its new alignment in terms of a cardinal direction and not a moral compass kind of alignment. And so things will move forward as they are. But, the stuff with Paizo and Kobold and MCDMs announcing that they're going to put out new rule systems and new OGLs are on the way. OGLs for what exactly? For what rule system? According to RPG Pundit, his contacts are saying that, like, behind the scenes, that, sure, they've announced the existence of Orc, but they don't exactly really know what the fuck to do, how to get it written, what to put in it. This could be months in the making if it ever comes together because of the varied egos and self-interests of these different companies, pulling them apart from this initial moment of solidarity. And the thing is we don't need the OGL. We never needed it. We don't need the Orc. We don't need to be using Creative Commons even. They can't copyright the rule system. You might, just for cover your own ass sake, change the names of a couple of ability scores and make a point to tailor skill selections and spells and creatures and such so it fits the concept of the game you're writing using that rule system. God forbid, we already have enough generic fantasy game rule sets. We too many people have put out rule books that are recreating the rule cyclopedia or first edition D&D. We don't need any more of those. If you are going to OSR, at least do like RPG Pundit and try to put some innovative stuff in your games, like with Lion and Dragon and stuff. Otherwise, you're just wasting your own time. We don't need another basic fantasy. We don't need another Dungeon Crawl Classics. These books already exist. We don't need another variation. People do have a need for campaign settings, character assets, adventure modules, campaign outlines. All those sorts of things are handy, and there's markets for them. But people do continue to try to make games based on the D&D rule system, wherever the fuck we're calling it now, the rule system in general, and not a specific edition of, then you should be putting some thought into like having it be a unique game experience, and so tailoring the rules to that unique game concept and theme should give you enough of those differences that your bases are covered. Just don't use their branded IP. Don't use the Lady of Pain. Why would you anyway? Don't use beholders and owlbears and mind flayers. Make up your own shit. If you can't come up with your own fantasy monsters, replace something as basic bitch as an owlbear, maybe you shouldn't be in this industry. The OGL has kind of encouraged too much of this stuff. Speaking purely from a selfish point of view, as someone who has books that aren't OSR, I've got like 30 books out there. 3 of them are derivative of D20 stuff. Pretty much everything else is based on my own rule system. I'm putting in the work, so to say. Part of the real reason why I didn't like putting out a book at the very beginning of this career I've started for myself, when I put out Ochre and Bone, and part of the thing that bothered me about putting the OGL in it is that, like I said, it's kind of hacky. There's no ownership to it. It's just piggybacking off stuff that's already been built. You're not actually being a game designer by creating a magic weapon or writing an adventure module for an existing game. If you're not creating your own game system, you're not designing a game. You might be designing a setting or for some other, set dressing features for a game. But if you're going to call yourself a thing, then you should do the thing. And so even if like my attempt isn't perfect, I feel like I've done more in my own little way to actually really, insert myself as a game designer than like a lot of the people who are even working for companies writing polished, nice looking books with pretty art and hardcovers and stuff, because they're not really designing anything. In order to be able to write OSR and OGL products, all you got to do is know enough about D&D's rules to copy paste them. And that's it. And, that's, I know that sounds harsh. It's egotistical, yada, yada, yada. Yes, and so the fuck what? We're all nerds. We all take pride in ourselves and the things we do and what we're good at and all that kind of stuff. And as you can tell, I don't take pride in myself as a great YouTuber because I'm not a great YouTuber. There's better spoken people out there. There's people who take more time to edit their stuff or pre-script what they're going to say or dance around in front of a little blue screen and show some pictures and stuff. Oh my God, look at this thumbnail of what someone said on Twitter. What innovative, creative content they're putting out for us to watch. No, I provide editorial commentary, and my channel is mostly just here to generate an audience that might want to actually look at the books I'm writing and stuff. Back when I first started out, get quite a few comments of people being very iffy about checking them out because they do have an alien rule system to them. It's not a rule system they're familiar with. It's not the White Wolf rules. It's not Savage Worlds. It's not GURPS, and it's not D&D. Now, all of a sudden, after this OGL event, there's a greater willingness for people to want to check out new systems, and that's good. It's why I don't think that the role-playing game hobby is going to die. It's just it's a transition phase in the exact shape of things. What's actually going to end up rising to the top of this, layer cake remains to be seen. But continuing to focus on D&D is a mistake, and trying to replace it with something else is a mistake. The entire industry could just as much be as sickly focused on the rise and fall of Pathfinder, which seems to be the most likely heir to the throne, if there is to be one. But really, this should be an opportunity for people to just check out some of the myriad of other games that are out there that you can play that are offering different experiences, and get back to it being a role-playing game hobby and not a Dungeons and Dragons hobby. Thank you. Please, if you don't mind. Another thing, though, that I noticed that the OGL does is it kind of backdoor allowed Wizards of the Coast to retain a sense of ownership over these things that they don't actually own. They can't copyright the idea that someone has a fighter as a class. They can't copyright someone having a strength score. They can't copyright dice that were invented by ancient Greek geography and mathematics. They can't copyright goblins and orcs. But the OGL, by accepting it, you're kind of still acknowledging and giving them the credit for these things, because you are attributing them as being the source that you're deriving your own works for. And so even though they can't copyright these public domain human mythology and history things, the OGL has allowed them, yes, to maintain kind of a weird sense of quasi-ownership over this stuff that they can't otherwise legally own. But they have so few things that they actually can legally own. We don't need the OGL at all. You can still mostly make rule books that are basically just ripping off D&D stuff. And that comes then to my angle, though. What are you doing? Why are you in the hobby? Why are you trying to do more than just run a game or play it? Why are you trying to write? Why are you trying to put your product out there? What is it you're trying to contribute to the overall conversation? Are you just you got just a really good idea for a dungeon module? Okay, that's cool. But if you're actually trying to write a game, well, the only way to really write a game and be one of the big dogs is to be able to design your own game system from scratch and have it be functional and work and make sense and all that kind of stuff, and do something that's different than what the other up and running functional game systems are already doing. And so that's what I've been doing, and that's why you should hopefully check out Drive Through RPG and check out the Total Party Skills page. I'm sure I'll leave links below at some point in the future. I mean, we do live in this new era of D&D Beyond, so, I'm going to expect all of you to every month buy $30 worth of books so you can keep enjoying my content. Otherwise, you're going to be low tier people and you'll have to get AI generated Total Party Skills videos. And you don't want that now, do you? I don't know. Did I sufficiently wrap up my points and make them all? I have no idea. It's fucking 4 in the morning. So I'm going to take my happy ass to bed. And I guess I'll see you when I see you. And until then, stay waspinated.